Hey, how's it going everyone? I'm the Atom Particle, and today we'll be reviewing Jade City by Fonda Lee. So this is the first book by the author that doesn't fall under the YA genre. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of YA. I don't know what it is, something about it just doesn't grab me. If you're like me at all, don't worry, this is completely an adult fiction or fantasy novel and reads a lot like one. This book is also very unique because it's inspired by This book is also very unique because it's inspired by a lot of Asian cultures and is also heavily inspired by a lot of crime movies and Asian kung fu action movies, and that just really creates a very unique setting, very unique characters, and just an amazing story overall. I read this book the first time a while ago. I think I was entering university, or not quite, which is actually a really long time ago now. But the first time I read it, for some reason, it just really didn't relate to me. I didn't dislike the book, it just didn't really grab me the same way it did this time around. I think part of the reason is just where I'm at as a person and where the characters are at in their own story. I'm just coming out of school, so there is a lot of uncertainty there, and I know university and college is really a stressful time for a lot of people, but it's a familiar stress. You understand what you're working towards, and there is that constant goal in mind. And once you graduate, there's just so many possibilities ahead of you, and it's a little overwhelming and stressful. At the same time, in this novel, all the characters are in a similar boat. The torch is being passed to a new generation of people who are going to take over the clan. The novel set in a time where the country is undergoing a lot of different changes, rapid changes. And there's just like a lot of uncertainty in the air, and you have to watch the characters kind of struggle with these uncertainties and figure out who they want to be in as a person. So this really related back to my current situation. So just as a general idea for this story, I'm not going to go into any spoilers. I'm just going to give a very brief setup for the events in the novel and just explain the characters, the setting. I highly recommend you read it for yourself and just see how well all these elements are implemented in creating this cohesive story. It follows a family that is highly regarded in the country of Kaikon, I believe it's called, but more specifically Janloon, which is the capital city in the country. This family acts almost like a mafia or a crime family, but is very highly regarded and operates outside of government, military, or any other political influence. There are multiple different families that control different parts of the country and kind of have their roots in different industries and can kind of control their own little districts. Each of these families that control their districts, they have different influences in the country's different industries, and they also have a lot of businesses and other patrons that pay tribute to them. A lot of people that live within the society, they pledge themselves to their clan, and this can come in the form of Jade Warriors, which almost act as enforcers or some sort of military planets, or act as some sort of soldiers which uphold the values of the Greenbone clans and also ensure laws are being followed within their given districts. These families or clans are highly regarded and were formed out of a great war that was fought by the Jade Warriors to push out foreign invaders a few decades earlier. A major element in this story is the Jade itself. This is a resource that are held by many people in the clans and provides superhuman abilities. These abilities include strength, which is pretty self-explanatory. There's deflection, which almost acts as almost like the Force. You can push people, you can deflect projectiles. It's used pretty defensively by the Jade Warriors. There's steel, which increases your resistance or protects you. It's pretty much a it pretty much turns your body into a shield. There's lightness, which pretty much just increases people's agility. Channeling, which is probably the most unique. I kind of see it as a bolt of electricity almost, where you can stun or even kill people with it. And then there's also perception, which is used very interestingly. There's also perception, which provides a really interesting twist to how people are perceived or how they come across. It allows the user to see other people's intentions, they're if they're lying, if they're intending to commit harm, or just kind of see their emotions almost. The people who wear jade also emit an aura of sorts, which helps characterize them in some way. It's a very interesting tool to help visualize what type of person this is, or just like their type of presence they have in the novel. The substance is also very heavily regulated. There's a lot of rules and regulations regarding how it's exported, imported, mined, or who can carry jade. There's a lot of rules surrounding people who can't wear jade and also those who choose not to wear jade. While there are many clans that exist within this country, we follow the two biggest ones. That is No Peak and the Mountain. The No Peak clan is our protagonist, while the Mountain clan is the antagonist of the story. But they both follow similar rules but are constantly trying to outmaneuver and expand their influence over the other clan. Like I said at the start, this story takes place with a new generation taking over, and it's during a time of major rapid cultural shifts. So this story has probably some of my favorite characters that I've ever seen. They're just very true to themselves and also very unique in their own way. The first being Lan, who is the pillar of No Peak, who is also the leader of the clan. He's the major decision maker when it comes to what direction No Peak will go. By the time of this novel, he has been in power for a few years, but still struggles to find his place within the clan, and still is finding his own voice and determining what type of leader he wants to be. He's naturally just a more reserved person, very patient and thoughtful, which kind of makes him come across as weak, but he is also very diplomatic and shrewd, and also very much has the best intentions for his clan. The second character is Hilo, who acts as the clan's horn. He largely controls the ground troops and the day-to-day operations of the clan, and operates more in the Jade Warrior section of the clan. He actively upholds the values of the clan and also ensure those rules are being followed while punishing those who act against them. He's very hot-headed and outgoing, but also very charismatic, and cares very deeply for the people in his life and the well-being of the clan as a whole. He's often overlooked because he's kind of just seen as this arrogant meathead, but he does have moments of cunning and also inspires a lot of loyalty within the clan. Also has a problem where just because of his presence and who he is, he often outshines his brother Lan. Another character we follow is Shay, who is the sister of Hilo and Lan. She is returning to Keikon after a long hiatus of going to university and running away with her partner at the time. This was seen as disgraceful from the clan, and she's returning, and as she returns, there's a lot of old wounds and just resentment between her and the family. While she is working to rebuild these relationships, she is also very independent and is looking to really make it on her own without the resources or the influence of No Peak clan behind her. Like I said, she's very independent, but she's also very pragmatic and cunning. She's a very shrewd business person, but also acts almost as a, I don't want to say reflection, but almost acts as a reflection to the main antagonist, Eight Mata. The difference with Shay is that she does still have a lot of ties to her family, and she still very much cares for the clan and the people in her life. The last character I'm going to go over is Andon. He's just finishing up his schooling. These schools are meant to train Jade warriors and teach them how to use their ability and maintain the values of the clan. He is part Espian, and Espia is the country that Shay was studying abroad at. This kind of results in him being a little bit of an outcast, but he's also incredibly gifted in using Jade and is also gifted academically. He has a very troubled past, but he was eventually brought into the Call family, which Shay, Lan, and Hilo are a part of. As a result, he very much looks up to these people and is also kind of insecure in some ways and wants to gain their acceptance. He is also very determined to find his own place in the world and just kind of figure out where he fits in a larger picture. What I love most about these characters is that it really does feel like a real family. They do often bicker and fight and just come into a lot of conflicts just based on who they are as a person, but they very much care for one another and really look out for one another. As a result of all their bickering and fighting, they also kind of really take to heart when that happens and are a little bit more sensitive to when they receive criticism from one another. Like I said, they have very different personalities, so it's a lot of fun just to see them kind of bounce off each other, kind of poke fun at one another, and just kind of explore that family dynamic further. This is especially true with Shay and Hilo, who are very different people. Shay wants some distance from the clan, whereas Hilo is very committed to the clan and really holds it in high regard. This just creates a lot of conflict between these two and very clashing identities and ideas. Many of the consequences within the novel feel very deserved and just make sense because they resulted from the decisions made from the characters, and all the decisions made just line up perfectly with who each of the characters really are. We do see the characters evolve and change as circumstances do, but it's still they still very much are the same character, just handling stress and adapting to these situations. As for the setting, it's truly unique. I've never read anything that quite feels like Keikon or Janloon. It almost has an 80s to 90s feel to it, where there is some technology, but it does feel very outdated and limited in what it can do. Like I said, Janloon is the main location, and it's just this massive city, which just drips with personality. Fonda Lee does an amazing job at just bringing the city to life, and it just feels so vibrant, and it feels like it's almost caked in this haze and this sunset, and just while you're reading about it, it feels like you're breathing the humid air. It's very well done and executed very well. For me, Janloon is the most realized city that I've ever read, and feels like I've spent time there and gotten to know the streets and the different districts. As for some critiques, it's hard to say really in retrospect. At the time of recording this, I've finished Jade War and I'm almost done Jade Legacy. It feels like a lot of the critiques I have in this first novel are solved or explained in the next two books in the series. But if I'm just basing these off of this first novel alone, I do have a couple critiques. For one, it feels like a lot of the plot and world just kind of revolve around these main characters. Again, this is explained in the next coming novels, and it does make sense for the story. Uh, Much of what happens within Keikon is a result of the clans and the people in power in them. A lot of the political and economic shifts are determined because of the actions taken by the Horn, the Pillar, or the Weatherman of each of the clans. There also doesn't feel like there's much of a world outside of Keikon. I know that Andon is part Espion and Shay was in Espion prior to the events of the novel, but they just didn't feel very realized and everything felt very isolated. Also, the climax of the book doesn't feel like it solved a lot of the issues that came up in this story, but again, this is just the first part of the whole series, and just really sets up the next two books for success. But like I said, after reading the rest of the series, these critiques are very mute and are solved or are explained in the following novels. For some reason, if these are just glaring issues for you when you read this book, please do yourself a favor and read the rest of the books in the series, as they all get explained and the ideas presented in this first book just get expanded upon and improved. So I highly recommend this book. It's a very strong entry into the series. Alone, it's just a solid book, but it is elevated by everything that comes after. So please definitely do yourself a favor and check it out. And that is my review for Jade City. Thank you for watching. I will be uploading a video on Jade War next week, and yeah, thanks for watching.